how do you think about in terms of, you know, maybe I can call that entrepreneurship in terms of how, you know, how you want to, how do you get attention to your own music so people
great, I
listen
love
to
it.
it? Yeah.
Great question. So, and I'm, yeah, this is a great question, and I hope I have an answer that's well, it'll be honest for me. That's all I can say. So business wise, you know, exploring it that way, I started at 18 as just a hired gun. That was my whole thing, and I had these goals. And I think the goals were the first step in creating what you're talking about, this stability business structure. So those goals, I had 3 of them. They were to play guitar on a film score. I was 18 years old or 17 when I wrote this. The second goal was to play on a Broadway show. And the third goal was to be in a late night band. So I don't know why I came up with these, but I think at 17 or 18, I thought, you know, my peak is going to be being a hired gun, and I want to be the best I can be. And then by some stroke of luck, I guess having written those goals down, you know, that encouraged me to sight read. I had to practice sight reading because I knew at least 2 of those, maybe all 3 required that. And then I had to practice my jazz chops because you never know if you need those. And long story short, by 24, I had, by some miraculous stroke of luck, completed all 3 of those. So it was, you know, played in a few scores, and then had worked on the Carson Daly house band, and then worked on Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark on Broadway. So I set up some new goals.
Yes. Right.
Yeah. So business-wise, no, it's fine. No, what was your question?
No, I mean, you're saying it's miraculously it happened, but I guess there must be some hard work on your side that actually made it happen, right?
And I think writing those goals down kind of kept me accountable. I would look at them as frequently as I could, maybe once a week. I know people say they put it on their mirror. I didn't do that, but I, you know, wrote it down and thought about it, and it did give me something to strive for. And then once that happened, I didn't have in those goals being in a band that was signed to a major label that was going to open for U2. Like I didn't have any sort of, oh, whoa. And to be frank, our band broke up for a plethora of reasons, but had we stayed together, I do believe we would have, you know, in partnering with Interscope, would have done some special things. And we did do some special things, but we decided to part ways for a plethora of reasons, which eventually led to me being in John Mayer's band and writing with Avril and all that stuff. So, yeah, it's, I guess business-wise. So yeah, I had those goals. And then for me, what's always been really important is instead of trying to separate myself from the music community, I'm different and I'm better or I'm worse or whatever judgments I'd have, I've always been really interested in connecting with others, whether that's through playing in their projects or writing for them or encouraging them, just saying, you're awesome, I appreciate, you're great, having them open for my bands or me opening for them. I love all that. And I think that connective process has led to probably 98% of my opportunities. Very few have come from agents. You know, it's always, oh, I'm a friend with Zane and we should hang out and my vocal teacher likes him and want to come play on my album? Oh, sure. Oh, wow. Now we're touring in Australia because okay. Wow. That kind of came out of nowhere. But as you put it, it did come from somewhere. It came from putting a priority on relationships and connection. And that served me really well because I will say at this point, you know, I have, like most musicians, had to pivot in some way because of this lockdown. And for me, it's turned into this Twitch streaming situation, which has really, you know, that's one way to connect with an audience. By the way, I'm realizing you had a very specific question and I rambled. You asked, how do you connect with an audience, right? How do you start that?
Entrepreneurship. I think you're answering it fine.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so the, I guess the entrepreneurship mentality is somewhat necessary as a musician. Even the greatest of artists that you think are so weird and mysterious, they're either consciously doing this and hiding it from the public, or they're unconsciously doing it. And point being, there is a problem solving that has to happen as an artist. Like, how am I going to make ends meet this month? How am I going to do this? And whether it expresses itself consciously or not, I think it has to be there. So for me, it's expressed itself in myriad ways. One being I have humility and willingness to work in kind of any job. So as a kid, it was, I'm 18, I'll teach lessons. I don't care. I'll play for nothing at a rap gig. I don't know what's happening. You know, I remember when I was 18, I got offered, I think, touring with 50 Cent, but I couldn't do it because I was already with Jesse McCartney. It was like, what? Right. I'm just willing to say yes to anything. I want to have work. And eventually that led to, me having enough relationships that I could perform a concert on my own, and then my friends would come and they'd validate me, and then audience would come. And so, yeah, I've definitely thought of these things quite a bit. But I will say the top of it, and this is being really honest, the top of my focus has always been the Steve Martin approach, which I heard him say in his recent masterclass, but he also said it on an interview, I think 25 years ago. He said that people would come up to him and they would say, how do you become a famous actor? Like, should I get an agent first or a manager? You know, or should I make a resume first, or should I get photos, or should the headshots be, how do you become and Steve said, oh man, you're asking all the wrong questions. There's only one question you got to ask. How can I get better? And then eventually, how can I become the best? So at least shoot for it. You probably won't become it. I didn't, but shoot for it. So this was Steve Martin's approach. And I have accidentally, before I even heard that was my approach too. How can I get better at sight reading today? How can I get better at really transcribing, not quote unquote transcribe? Really, I want to write those notes down, and I want to play every part that George Benson or Wes Montgomery played on the right string, with the right string gauge, on the right guitar. How can I really transcribe? How can I do my music theory where it's not just cool, Lydian, everyone's talking about Lydian. What does Lydian feel like? How does it make my song feel? Doing all that work, that was always my focus. And so when opportunities would present themselves entrepreneurially, my focus had always been number one, how do I grow as an artist? How do I grow as a songwriter, as a composer? And then when opportunities presented themselves through connection, and some would call it networking, I call it just friends, relationships. Bam, you know, I don't think I've ever said no to something if I've had the time to do it. And I have never been fired from something because I put a premium on, I need to work on this stuff, you know?